Let me see if this works. Yes, it works. This is a slide which I got at the Davos summit, which was not so long ago, from Tony Seba from Stanford University. And I would like to use it to describe and to discuss with you that what we have ahead of us is not simply a change, a transition, a transformation. What we are facing can only be described as a disruptive process. And Tony Seba in his slides shows this example. New York in the year 1900, the street is full of vehicles, but look at the vehicles. If you look very carefully, you see one automotive car, which is this one here. And the rest are all horse-drawn carriages. At that time, accidents with carriages was a very big problem. Similar picture just 10 years later. 1913, again the street is full of vehicles. And if you look very carefully, you can notice there is one horse on this whole picture. So this is called a disruption. And this is really something which is faster than experts expect. This really changes the landscape much faster than anybody thinks. Tony uses another example, and this is mobile telephones. In the year 1985, AT&T asked a very high reputable company, McKinsey, to make an educated guess, and I'm sure they paid a lot of money for this educated guess, how many mobile phones might exist in the United States 15 years longer, in the year 2000. And McKinsey, after a lot of number crunching, came up with a result. It might be possible that in 15 years we will have 900,000 mobile phones in the United States. They were off by a factor of 120. This is really disruption, and this is what we are facing. And we will face disruption in the energy sector in all these topics. Energy storage, the prices of batteries fall down faster than anybody expects. We will soon have electric cars for 20,000 euros and less with a nice and decent range. We will have self-driving cars. We will have, of course, renewable energy, solar energy, and I cannot escape to show you a few slides on this topic of solar energy. But these are all the topics which are going to be disruptive. And as a matter of fact, in many, many areas, we are here right now in the year 2017, in the area of electromobility, self-driving cars, energy storage, renewable energies. And we will be much faster than anybody expects where we are going. And this is not a transition. This is not even only a transformation. It is a true disruption. But how can it work? And I think we have a good example here in Germany. Let me very quickly show some slides of a study which we did at Fraunhofer ISE to study, can a country, a highly industrialized country like Germany, really be supplied with this very fluctuating renewable energy mix? And as a matter of fact, it was a very detailed study. Hans-Martin Henning, who actually is my successor as director of Fraunhofer ISE, has done this for 2 years ago. And he came to the conclusion, after carefully studying each hour of the year and each year from 2016 to 2050. And he could find that indeed the transformation will be possible. We can find a stable and cost-effective energy supply system, and actually he could put numbers like we need about 150 gigawatts photovoltaic, 150 gigawatts wind, numbers much larger than all the current expectations for these sources of renewable energies. But this is needed in order to really stabilize the system and guarantee a stable system. But the most interesting part is, how much will this cost to us? Is it a huge burden? Will it crush our economy to go on this way? The answer is no. Yes, it will cost money. It will cost money of the tune of about 5,000 billion euros till 2050, which sounds like an enormous amount of money, but business as usual, keeping our current energy system, will cost 4,000 billion euros. So the delta is only very small, is of the order of 30 billion euros a year, or a small fraction of our gross national product. And there's something missing. Okay, this doesn't show up. So this transformation will be cost effective. It will allow to have in 2050 an energy system running at the same cost as today's system, but without import of fossil or nuclear resources, 80% based on own self-made, self-provided energy from wind, solar, and other sources, biomass, and so on. And this, of course, is a good message for the whole world. This transformation process is worth to be undertaken. It is cost effective. Countries who go on this way will have big advantages. And Germany, of course, has started quite early on this process. This shows the increase of the renewable energies, 40 gigawatt of wind and 40 gigawatt of PV. If you remember the number, 1/3 of the way we have already done by now, but 2/3 are still ahead of us. And this is really something which in the political discussion is not yet known. And of course, the result, as we all know, was an unprecedented decrease of the cost. A way of making electricity from directly harvesting sunshine was one of the most expensive ways to create electricity as little as 10-15 years ago. And today, it is really one of the most cost-effective ways. As a matter of fact, our own study showed a few years ago that we will reach 2 to 4 cents per kilowatt hours by the year 2050. And the real number is in 2016 in Dubai, solar electricity was offered for 2.4 cents per kilowatt hour. This is what I call a disruptive process. We expected, we the experts, expected it in 2030, 2040, 2050, and this number is now present. And this means the further introduction of solar electricity, renewable energies, will go much faster than anybody expected, because now it's not only driven by our concern for the environment, by our concern for the climate, it will as well be driven much more powerful by simply economics. It's the economic thing to do. We will come into a very interesting stage because we had a very tough time for photovoltaics in the last 6 years, because we had gigantic overproduction, basically based on the too fast buildup of capacity in China. The world market in 2012 was 30 gigawatt of new installations, but 60 gigawatt of production capacity was waiting, and therefore prices collapsed, companies went bankrupt. But today, these two developments have come together, and we will experience in the next 5 years a further doubling of the global PV production capacity. Actually, we had a workshop here in this room in March of 2016, where we had leading experts from around the world to discuss PV entering the terawatt stage, and our consensus was anywhere between 1 and 3 and maybe even as high as 10 terawatt might be installed in the year 2030. 10 terawatt is 10,000 gigawatt. And where we are today, look at this picture here from the International Energy Agency. This predicts 2050, 5 terawatt. You know, we said 2030 could be 10 terawatt, but most important, to see where we are today, you need a magnifying glass, because today we have only installed 300 gigawatt. This is the disruptive transformation which we will face in the next 10 to 15 years. Some of you might remember that we discussed it here. So I would like to end with the topic of President Köhler, countering the narrative of decline, the great transformation as a global story of hope. The story of hope is that the transformation to a cost-effective energy supply system is possible and cost-effective. The transformation of the energy system will, in my opinion, be only the first step towards a global transformation to a sustainable economy overall. The transformation of the energy system is, of course, especially urgent because of the dangers, of the consequences of the imminent, and I'm sorry to say, in part, unavoidable climate change, because climate change is well underway, and I am afraid very soon we will see even more urgent reasons to speed up this process to decarbonize the world. This process has many upsides. We need to develop energy efficiency. We need to develop renewable energy technologies, efficient use of resources, new ways to harvest scarce resources. I got a proposal that Korea starts to harvest lithium, which is a very important element for battery technology, out of seawater. So if we can develop techniques to get resources out of seawater, this will be a big, big supply for the time to come. And very important, this process will create much more equitable societies, because the worst problems, political problems around the world, are in those countries which are rich in resources, because any country rich in resources attracts a lot of bad people who try to get the quick money, take out the resources, leave the country, and not share it with the population. Renewable energy doesn't send a bill. Renewable energy you can get anywhere. Therefore, this transformation will go to a more equitable society. And this I would call the global story of hope. The great transformation is our opportunity for the global transformation to equitable and just societies. Thank you very much. I would like now to ask President Köhler for his address, and I would like to already mention to you, after President Köhler's talk, there is time for question and answer. So please, if you have issues you would like to discuss with Horst Köhler, please be prepared, and we will have time to address these questions. Thank you so much for coming here, and I'm very much looking forward to your presentation.